have a good time, put a smile on your face, yeah, KB Cam and Elation Radio. Even brighten your days and help you through the night. Bring you good music, KB Cam and Elation Radio. And here's your host, KB Cam.
Lady Michelle Austin. I know what you've been through. Don't think that it's only you. Only you. Yeah. Pick your head up, get up. It's only right. Take back your life. Pick your head up, get up. Take back your life. And come and talk to me. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Come and talk to me. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Out loud. Speak your peace. Come and talk to me. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Out your mouth. Hey, speak your peace. Come and talk to me. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. I know that you're in pain. You gotta love yourself enough to make the change. Yeah. Speak into your atmosphere. Yeah. And take away the power of your fear. Pick your head up, get up. It's only right. Take back your life. Pick your head up, get up. Take back your life. And come and talk to me. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Come and talk to me. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Out loud. Speak your peace. Come and talk to me. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Out your mouth. Hey, speak your peace. Come and talk to me. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Speak your peace.
Hello, Thriver Nation. How is everybody on this wonderful evening? I am welcoming you back to another episode of Speak Your Peace with Lady Michelle, and I am your host, Lady Michelle, and we want to welcome you to our virtual Safe Zone this evening. I thank you all for taking the time out to come and listen to what we have to say. Now, I want you to know that this platform is centered around education of domestic violence, toxic relationships, the different forms of trauma. You know, we talk about some self-love on here. We talk about finding your voice, and just to name a few things, right? You know, we get to a whole bunch of stuff over here. But please keep in mind that when you think about Speak Your Peace with Lady Michelle, it is really designed with each of you in mind. We designed it so that we would be able to enlighten you, to educate you, inspire, and empower you. But y'all know I got to make the disclaimer. You know, we got to get the disclaimer in every week. Might have somebody new listening to us, and they might not know the disclaimer. So we want to make sure that you know that all the content on this podcast is intended for general information purposes only, and it is not intended or implied to be a substitute for professional mental health, trauma advice, or therapy sessions. All right? Did y'all hear me? And you never, ever, ever should disregard or delay seeking professional treatment based upon any content that you hear on this podcast. You got an emergency going on, you make sure you call your physician or you call 911. All right? So we're going to get that out the way. We got to make sure y'all know this wonderful stuff. Now, during the pandemic, we've all been, we were shut down for about the past 2 years, and everybody's starting to come back into the fold of things and getting back out. And so during that time, many of us really felt, we were thinking about different things of our lives, what was meaningful, what was important to us. It made us really think about things, right? And so if you're like me and my guest today, right, you've probably been thinking about ways to create a more fulfilling life, especially in the areas that may not bring you the greatest satisfaction, right? We all started rethinking things during this pandemic time. And so one of the goals for this podcast is to help my listeners live a more integrated and deeply satisfying life as a whole person. Please hear me when I say that. We really want to make sure that we're giving you the right information, the right things to help you to be a whole person. And so while we definitely talk about topics that relate to trauma, I also want to make sure that we're always sharing tips and techniques with you guys to help you to create a more balance in your lives and to really show up as that whole person that we spoke about earlier, right? So just keep all this in mind, and, sometimes it can be really difficult trying to figure those things out, right, and work through them. So I have an amazing guest with me tonight, this episode today. And this is going to knock your socks off, because she definitely knocked my socks off, and it was really too hot today to wear socks, but she knocked them off if I would have had them on. And I want to introduce her to you. Now, here's the thing. I could read, long bios and things like that, but, those are boring. I like people to come on and talk about themselves and tell you all the good, juicy stuff about themselves, right? But I will say this. Get your paper and your pen out. Take some notes down. This woman is a wealth of knowledge, and you are going to really enjoy her. Come on, Thriver Nation, help me welcome Lynette, and I never say her name right. I think it's Trawick, but she'll correct me. Hi, Lynette.
Hi. Thank you so much for the welcome. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for coming on tonight, for taking the time out. I have been following you for quite some time. I met you a couple of years back. We were it was some kind of camping ground, and I was out there with some young ladies that we had taken out there, and you were out there with your group of people, and I've been following you on social media, and I really have been inspired by your story. I've been inspired by how you even go about your daily life, right?
Yeah.
So I want you to tell my you're welcome. I want you to tell my Thriver Nation a little bit about yourself, and why did I bring you here today?
Yeah, so again, thank you so much. So my name is Lynette Trawick, and I guess a little bit about myself. When some of my favorite parts of me, I am a wife. I am what I like to call a kingdom entrepreneur. So basically, anything God tells me to do, I always call him a bully. He bullies me into doing a whole bunch of stuff, and I just do it. And I am a mom. I am a village mom. I have 11 children. 5 of them at home. Yes, 5 at home who are school-aged. We are a multi-business family. Myself, I have a nonprofit called IMU Inc., where I serve women living with HIV. I am also a wellness coach, in addition to being a brand new author of my book, From Diagnosis to Destiny.
Yes, we are definitely going to talk about that. When I was trying to decide, how I would write my intro of you out, and I know that there was something that stood out to me on your Facebook page, and it's the very first line. It's right after your picture, right? And it said, and I loved it. It just stood out. It said, "When was the last time you had a conversation with someone who was HIV positive?" And I was like, wow, like that's a big question, because some people may say, I've never had a conversation, or some might say it's been quite a while. So tonight, they get a chance to have a conversation with you. How?
Yes. So it's funny because I don't even remember. I remember that quote, but I don't remember the moment I put it on my Facebook page. But I just remember thinking of it one day, and then like the next day it was there already. So I know that was something I was supposed to put there. So I have been living with HIV for it's been 13 years as of this past November. So it'll be 14 years this coming November. So I remember the day, November 18th, 2008, I was diagnosed with HIV. So it's been, a roller coaster ride, but it's come to the point now where I'm so open and just available and ready for people to just ask questions when it comes to HIV. So I put it on all my social media platforms. I wear shirts that say something about HIV to kind of spark conversation, because my work is just basically to normalize the conversation around HIV, make it not as taboo, because if we're all quiet about it, nobody will ever learn. So just opening up the conversation about HIV from a very personal standpoint.
Right. I love that, because oftentimes people, when they hear HIV positive diagnosis, they think of it's a death sentence. And so I love watching you live your life out loud. And you are, you and your husband, you guys are, and this is I want to make this disclaimer as well. You got to make disclaimers. This is not the husband who gave you the HIV. This is you got remarried. So we got to make sure we put that out there.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
But God blessed you to be able to get married again to a wonderful man who loves you and honors and respects you, and it's just a beautiful sight to even watch you guys interact. And so, again, what I was saying is people think it's a death sentence, and that, you just have to go in the corner and die. Or they get so angry that they begin to go out and party and, do all kinds of things, and they're going to give it to other people. They just have this, I don't care attitude. So, I love seeing you take that bull by the horns and say, listen. Now, I don't know what happened in the beginning. You could tell us when you first found out you were diagnosed. It might have been a different story. I'm talking about what I see now. So, why don't we jump into that? How was it when you first was diagnosed?
Oh, well, let me tell you, that Lynette was not this Lynette, okay? When I was first diagnosed, I was 26 years old. I was a single mom. I was working, I was going to school. I had a lot going on. So not to say that it ever fits in anybody's life, but HIV definitely didn't fit in my life in that moment, So it was what do I do with this? First of all, I never knew of any other young black woman living with HIV. So for me to now be that person, that statistic, I had no idea what to do with that information. I didn't think, okay, well, God, I didn't go to God with it. I didn't take it to God and pray. I didn't do any of that. It was God. Why me? Why do you hate me so much? I finally got out of this mess that I was in, and now this, and what else do you have for me? And, so that was my mentality. I struggled a lot trying to figure out, how do I tell people, is anyone ever going to want me? Because, of course, I had a lot of issues with self-esteem and different things like that even prior to my diagnosis. So now add this in, and it was horrible, So anything that I felt looked like HIV, I didn't want to be. I didn't want to sit in the house. I wanted to turn into whatever the opposite of HIV was in my head. That's what I wanted to become. So I became the party girl, the girl always hanging out and going on dates and just super fun. And that's what I became, even though that's not what I was. But that was my way of coping with my diagnosis. It was a way where I could be able to create this character that no one would ever believe had HIV because she was so much fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. I'm glad that you brought that up. One of the things that I on this podcast, we talk a lot about domestic violence, of course, and we talk about the different traumas and different things that's going on. And it was so interesting how much the HIV and domestic violence really go together. And I don't think people – I think when folks are looking at domestic violence, of course, the first thing they always think about is the physical part, right? And now that we're trying to get them out of just only thinking physical, we know that it's emotional and it's psychological and it's sexual and
spiritual
it's
financial.
It's spiritual, all of these things, right? So we're trying to open up people's minds to that. But I don't think that they've really put together that HIV piece that goes with it. But when I was looking at some of the stats, listen to this. It says, of course, we know 1 in 4 women and 1 in 10 men will experience severe domestic violence in their lifetime, right? But it also states on the other side, 1 in 4 people living with HIV in the United States are women. So look at how those numbers really go together. And it has a lot to do with of course, we don't have control over our bodies when we're in a domestic violence abusive situation, and especially if you're married. I mean, it just ups the notch, right? Because he thinks that he or she, because we don't want to do gender, it's he or she, both can be affected by domestic violence, but wants to take over your body, wants to have your body whenever they want. And I know you and we talked a little earlier, and I was telling you, because I'm very transparent as well, that I remember when I was in an abusive situation and my husband gave me an STD, right? And it wasn't HIV, but it was still an STD. I'm sorry. And I remember not wanting him to touch me anymore. And after we got through that process, I didn't want him to touch me, but he still wanted and felt obligated because I was his wife. And so people don't understand the term marital. We don't really like to use the R word, but So when they take it and they feel like because you're married, is that what happened to you? How did, what went on with your situation, an abusive situation and things like that with domestic?
So for me, I was dealing with domestic abuse within the relationship. And like you said, there's so many different versions of domestic abuse and domestic violence. I experienced pretty much all of them, from physical to sexual to spiritual to financial. The piece where it was sexual abuse, it was rough because it wasn't so much him trying to force himself on me. It was more mental for me trying to figure out how to stand up for myself and tell him, no, I don't want to do this because I know what you've been out there doing. That was the hard part for me. I knew that he wasn't being monogamous. I knew that he was sleeping around. I knew that there was a possibility, before I even found out that I had contracted anything. I knew that there was a possibility that I would contract something because he was out doing what he was doing. But I wasn't strong enough to say, listen, I don't want to do this because I need to protect myself. So that's what it looked like on me. So not necessarily him forcing himself on me, but me not even being able to find the words to stand up for myself.
Wow, that's great that you said that, because now you have become a voice for the voiceless. You're showing people how to speak up and activate that super hidden power that we have inside of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're doing that by having your organization. So let's jump into your organization, because it's a really good thing that you're doing. You're helping women. This is a well-needed type of organization, because a lot of women, when they are diagnosed, they don't know where to go. They don't know what to do. They don't know the first steps. Their mind is whirling all over the place. So, take us into the world of your organization. What do you do? How does one? What's the age group and things like that?
Mm-hmm. Yes, so my nonprofit, that's my baby, that is IMU, and IMU serves women who are living with HIV between the ages of 25 and 45 years old. That's IMU's main focus. And however, we started to do some rebranding, reprogramming this year. So we're going to not only serve women who are living with HIV, but we're going to start specifically targeting newly diagnosed women, because we know that that's, one of the most challenging times right after you receive that diagnosis, trying to now figure out what it is that you're supposed to be doing, and specifically for women, because we tend to put everybody else except, first before ourselves. So I wanted to create this organization where it's now putting that woman first. Also, we're going to have programming for high school students, and we're going to focus on prevention from a unique standpoint. So not just here, use these condoms, hey, you should be abstinent, but really digging deep to find out why they feel the need to be sexually active. Like you said earlier, going back to giving them that voice to say, no, I don't want to, without being afraid of repercussions, teaching them about domestic violence, because I feel like a lot of these teenagers, and especially being a mom of teens, they don't really understand what domestic abuse looks like. It's too often that I'm driving around when kids are just getting out of school and I'm seeing, boys push girls and girls punch boys and they're just laughing, and it's, they don't understand that that's a form of domestic violence. You're getting used to these little shoves and thinking it's just okay, and that's not the case. So really attacking HIV from a very unique standpoint. Let's talk to these kids about why, the deep down why. So that's what INU does, and we'll be doing a lot of partnering with organizations as well. Definitely want to dig more into the domestic violence piece as well. We have a lot of things in the works that I'm very, very excited about.
That's great. I'm listening to you, and I love that I hear you speaking a lot about prevention. Mm-hmm. And that's what we really need to do, because I know I was in a domestic abusive situation. You were in one, and there's so many more. If we had heard some things that would have helped us to do some preventive care, I think it would have turned out differently. So I love that you're starting that with young people. They need that because there's such, again, like I said, there's such an intersection of HIV and domestic violence that is really not being spoken of enough. And so we know that, and you're a speaker on this as well as myself. So we tend to have a lot of stats. So, but I want to make sure that we're giving them my Thriver Nation here, and I like to call them Thriver Nation because, of course, we are thrivers here at Speak Your Piece with Lady Michelle. We are not survivors. We've been stopped surviving. We're thriving now. We're moving on to the whole another piece of it. Like my pastor has been teaching this year, dimensional. We're elevating to a new dimension, and so. I love that. That's what we're doing. And so when I looked at some of the things, the intersection of HIV and domestic violence, it had a lot to do with the power and control part of when they have been diagnosed, sometimes even still being with the partner, the abusive partner, they try to keep them from going to the doctors.
Mm-hmm.
They may even be afraid to tell the doctor that they've got who they, received it from, because they're afraid they're going to get beaten when they get home or something like that.
Yeah.
There is victims of domestic violence are 48% more likely to be exposed to HIV transmission than those in a nonviolent relationship. That's heavy.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, that's really heavy. And then women experiencing domestic violence are more likely to be exposed to HIV because they might be forced to have unprotected sex with a partner living with HIV, or they have limited ability to negotiate safe sex practices. So again, it's taking away their power and their control. What you said, you didn't have that voice. You didn't have this courage, the strength to speak up to this person that you knew was out there not being faithful. You already knew. You knew what was going on, but you didn't have the strength. So if we can help our sisters to get that voice and to get that strength and to find, to have this preventive care that you are providing with IMU and, these programs for the youth, if we can help out. Now, of course, we can't touch every single person, and some people, just might not want to listen to us. But if we can start with you, how wonderful would that be?
And that's so hard. That's the tough part for me. I want to help everybody. I struggled for a while trying to figure out exactly what IMU does, because it's like I just want to help everybody with HIV. Learn to live with it. I want to help everybody without HIV learn to not get it, and that's it. But it's like, no, you can't. That's the world. That's everybody. You can't save the world. So, we have to really, really focus and zoom in on, okay, who can you touch with your story? And then let everybody else who has a story and a passion to help people focus on their people, So there will be people to help the men living with HIV and the long-term survivors of HIV. There will be people to do that. But I had to say, okay, God, what is it that you want me to do? Where are your people that you need me to touch? So, yes, those newly diagnosed women and the youth is where he directed me.
Awesome. And that's a great place to start, because those are two important groups of people that are going to need your expertise. They're going to need you to hear your story. They're going to need to, have someone who can be compassionate with them and empathetic with them and help them along the journey till they get to the other part where there will be someone waiting to take them even further, right? So I think that's wonderful that you are doing that. I have another question for you. And it's really not a question. I guess it is. Anyway, telling someone who you love that you are living with HIV, that can be really, really hard, right? And it can definitely impact not just you, not just the person who received the diagnosis, but also those who are around them, like, their family, their friends, their, people who you're really close with. How was that for you when you had to tell your family and friends and close relatives and things like that about your diagnosis?
Oh, it was different. I had no idea who to start with, how to say it. I remember thinking about it on a train ride home, and I was on the train just crying. And I wish I could reach out to the person. It was a lady who came up to me on the train, and she put her hand on my shoulder. And she said, I'm not sure what you're going through, but everything is going to be okay. And I looked at her like, lady, please. you don't know what you're talking about with the news I just got or nothing. Please get away from me. That's what I said in my head. I ain't say it to her, but, I remember I got home and I said, okay, I called. I can't even remember that day, honestly. It's so many parts. I just remember pieces of that day. And a lot of other parts. Friends and family had to fill in for me. So my best friend told me I called her, and she left work, and she came right over, and she sat with me, and I told her. I do remember calling. I had like a core group of friends. It was about 4 people that I used to talk to, and we always had real deep conversations. I called them, and they all came over, and I remember talking to them. And at the time I was dating a guy. I had just started dating this guy, and it was going so well. And I was so hopeful for this relationship, and I called him over. He came over, and I told him, and he said, I'm sorry, well, this has to end because I don't know enough about HIV to, safely be around you. And I didn't know enough to be able to say, oh, well, it's okay because, I didn't know enough. So we let each other go. So that hurt, to know that I couldn't. Here I am again feeling like I can't even stand up for myself, But those were the few people that I told initially, and I didn't tell anybody again for a while after that. I was diagnosed in November. I didn't tell my mom until February of the following year, my mom and my brother. And then just kind of slowly from there, every once in a while I would tell someone if I had a specific reason to. But, yeah, it was tough, really trying to figure out how to say it, especially in the beginning when I didn't know enough to really reassure someone. And that was the reason why I didn't tell my mom in the very beginning, because I wanted to make sure I would be able to confidently tell my mom, listen, I have HIV. This is what it means. This is what it may be doing to my body. I'm on medication. I'm healthy. Let's move on. But I couldn't do that in the beginning confidently. So I waited, until I was.
Wow. Whew. Well, I'm glad you were able to do that. That takes me to another piece of domestic violence where oftentimes the abuser would threaten to expose the status of the person, and they may even threaten to do it via social media, go to the family, go to their jobs and things like that. So they keep, of course, the power and control by threatening that. You and I are people who use our voice, right? But for those who can't use their voice, I'm very thankful that you have your organization, and we're going to make sure that everyone has all of the information to make sure they can get in contact with you for your org so that they can talk to you and kind of get more help that they need. But is that one of the reasons why you did we're going to move right into the book. The book is amazing. We're going to move into that. You have a story behind how you even wrote the book. So, again, tell my Thriver Nation all about that.
Yeah, so my book, in the world, let me tell you, this book has been a whirlwind. I was telling everybody it took me about 5 years to write the book. However, I was looking through some old posts on Facebook and realized it was 7 years that it took me to write the book. And it really started just from a place of me journaling. So I was sitting, and I said, one day I want to write a book. So I just started sitting with a pen and paper because I love pen and paper. I know it's a bunch of technology, and you can type stuff and save stuff to your phone, and it'll dictate it for you and all of that, but I am good with my pen and paper. So I started like that, and I would just write different aspects of my life. I was writing everything from growing up to me growing up in a single-parent household, to my children, to HIV, to relationships. I was just writing all different kinds of stuff. And then eventually I started focusing on my journey with HIV. And it just kind of took a life of its own. And I started naming my chapters as I went along. And it took me so long because there are so many different stories within my story that were traumatic. And I had to keep stopping. And I said, I'm not ready to face this yet. I can't deal with it. This is too much. Maybe this is going to be too much for the book. So this is going to hurt somebody's feelings. I can't do this right now. So I would stop writing. I would go back to therapy. Then somebody would call me or tag me in something online or send me a message. Hey, didn't you say you were writing a book? I'm like, oh, goodness. All right. Let me get back to it. So I start writing it again. And, then I run into another block. And then it's like, okay, I'm just going to slowly, silently stop writing this book. Then here comes somebody else. Hey, didn't you say you were writing a book? So that just kept happening until I finally buckled down and said, okay, all right. And of course, my husband was like, all right, it's time for you to finish writing this book. That's enough. Give me a release date, and I'm going to hold you accountable. And then that's what happened. I decided to finish it and release it for my 40th birthday, which was earlier this year, April 8th of this year. It was released.
Woohoo! First of all, for the April birthday. I'm April 3rd, April 8th. So, woo-hoo! And congratulations on a very successful book. I've read the reviews on Amazon, and I'm telling you, you are touching so many lives just of the words that they are giving, the inspiration, how amazing the book is, and, from diagnosis to destiny. That speaks to so many people because, again, like I said, they get the diagnosis, they think it's a death sentence, but no, it's destiny. So many things that you're doing, you're helping people. So when we say here, you're no longer a victim, you're more than a survivor, you are a thriver. You are walking right in that. You are doing exactly what that says. You're thriving. You have gone to the next dimension in, this diagnosis that was designed to take you out of here, but God meant it for your good. God said, no, it's not so. You have a work to do, and you are doing it. You're walking in it. So many people need to hear from you and need to hear how they can go. It doesn't have to take them out of here, but they can do so many wonderful things with this diagnosis that they have been given. I heard you say therapy, and I am a big advocate of therapy, and I love that you're doing that because we have to talk to somebody about it. And I always tell people, I have Jesus and my therapist on speed dial.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I take it all to God, and then he'll say, okay, now take this part to your therapist because you need to continue to talk through this. You need to. You got to work through some stuff. And I know for me, even when I went to therapy, a lot of times, and this is how it worked for me, was there were some things I knew was wrong. I knew some things were going on in my life, but I didn't understand them, and I didn't have a name for them. So even talking with my therapist, and she gave me the names and the things and why it was happening like this, then I was able to go back to God, and I was able to pray differently. And so it really helped me tremendously. And I hear that in your voice. I hear that in your story. I hear that in I see it in what you're doing, that you are taking something that was designed by the enemy to try to take us out of here, to try to mess us up. But he couldn't mess up our journey. We are on a journey to freedom. Right. And while we're on this journey to freedom, we're going to take so many people with us. I always look at myself as Harriet Tubman of domestic violence, right? I'm going to take them to freedom land. And you are right. We are on this journey together. We're in this battlefield together, and I love it. I'm so happy that you came here tonight to speak to the masses and let them know that it is not the end. If you're going through something, I often tell people, because I know all the time you can't just leave right away with domestic violence, but we also tell people how to live there safely until you can get out. And so I know that you have some many things, again, with the preventive care and the preventive work that you're going to be doing, the programs, preventive programs, I said care, programs. That's all I'm saying, right? With all of that you're going to be doing, you're going to be helping them because, of course, our youth, they can't always get out of the house right away, or sometimes they're put into situations that they didn't ask to be in, right? But you're going to be helping them to be safe while they're there still in these situations. Correct. Yes. There's so many youth that people, I don't even think that people realize how many youth are victims of sex trafficking, how many youth are even sex workers. For just you look at a lot of these, especially the girls, and you think, oh, well, she's just fast and she's just doing this and just doing that, and she's sleeping with all these guys, but why? Have you taken time to ask her why? Something may be going on in her home, and she can't be there, and this guy is giving her a roof over her head, so she feels like she has no choice. So it's that, and those are the things that I will be working with IMU, because we gotta get past looking, especially at our youth, and just being so judgmental, because we were all young once, and we didn't walk on a straight and narrow the entire time. So we gotta get down to those whys.
Exactly, and that really goes to how women who are living with HIV, they experience sometimes some individual, some community violence, some institutional violence, and sometimes that is the barriers that they face that really make it difficult for them to leave their abusive partner. And so, just like you said, there are so many more things to it. I always tell people domestic violence, of course, it's the really big umbrella, but there's so many layers to it. There's so many things that are under that umbrella. And, contracting HIV from an abusive partner is one of those layers. And it's an unfortunate thing because people don't see that. We've got to get out of just seeing the physical part of it, and we really need to tackle so many of the other elements so that we can help. For instance, we are probably not teaching, I should say many people are not teaching their daughters that there are female condoms. Right? If the guy doesn't want to wear a condom, you have the responsibility that you could have one,
Yes. There's so many women who don't know that that's in existence.
They don't.
I've been to so many events. I've taken them with me to events, and they're like, well, what's this? But you know what? That's even another issue, because if you think about it, you can walk into any Walgreens or CVS and go down the aisle and see male condoms. Female condoms are not there. And I know at least in Pennsylvania, they're not readily available. You have to get them from either a clinic, or your doctor can write a prescription for them, but you have to go and find them and ask that question. You can't just go in somewhere and grab one from, and purchase it. So that's even another barrier that needs to go away.
You are absolutely correct. And it even goes in further than even contracting an STD. I remember my OBGYN doctor once told me about him because she said she is allergic. She was married, but she was allergic to her husband's semen. Well, who has those conversations? Nobody's having those conversations. How many doctors are really being open and speaking with the women about that? And she was like, listen, I don't care what. Like, my husband knows we are not, if we don't have the protection. And so you have to be open to have these conversations. And, again, it goes back to having that voice. It goes back to the woman saying, hey, this is what is going to happen. And if you don't agree with this, then you and I cannot be intimate with one another.
Right.
And it doesn't matter. That is your husband. You have to have these conversations. So I love it. Thank you for being the voice for the voiceless. I, too, consider myself to be a voice for the voiceless, and we are going to do this, sister. We are going to continue to open our mouths and continue to help people by using our voice. And so I want to we're getting to this hour always goes so fast, right? We're getting down to the last
I know, always.
But is there anything that you may feel that you missed that you want to really always ask my guests to give, final words, to give that thing that they feel like they want to make sure that the audience gets. The floor is yours. You can let them know anything that you want to talk about.
Yeah, so definitely, I always say that no one is going to protect you like you. So it's up to each individual to get the education that they need. It's up to each individual to go out and to ask the questions and not be afraid to ask the questions. I don't like blind spots. I don't like not knowing what I don't know. Me not knowing something that's easy to fix, I can just go out and I can Google stuff. But if I don't know that I don't know it, that's an issue. So I try my best to go out and I find any information that I possibly can about things that I don't even know that I don't know. So that's one thing that I want to encourage. Go to these different seminars. There's so many different free classes and events that you can go to just learn things. I try to learn things that's nowhere in my realm of, what I do, just because you just never know what you may be able to apply to your current set of knowledge. So don't be afraid to learn things. Don't be afraid to ask questions. And just remember that there's always another perspective. So I think a lot of times we get stuck in our own perspective. I'm the victim and you hurt me and you did this to me. But we never take into consideration that other person's perspective. What is it that they may have gone through? Yes, they still, at the end of the day, they still may have done you wrong. But think about the things that they may have gone through. Okay, now how can we rearrange, how can we now no longer be the victim? And that's one of the things that I refuse to be anymore. I'm no longer a victim of my past, because I understand that even the person that I contracted HIV from, he had a past. Something made him be the way that he was, and it wasn't me. So I'm not the victim anymore. Nobody can use him against me. Nobody can use HIV against me. Nothing. Because I'm not a victim. I can stand anywhere and say that I am healed from HIV. I'm not cured from HIV, but I'm healed from the chains that used to hold me due to HIV. So don't keep making yourself the victim. We will be victorious because it was already written. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Great words of wisdom to give to them. Let everyone know how they can get in touch with you, social media, your website, whatever way. Definitely, how can they get the book From Diagnosis to Destiny? Give them all the information, please.
Of course. So From Diagnosis to Destiny can be purchased there are two ways. You can either purchase it on Amazon, or my favorite will be on my website, which is LynetteTrawick.com. That's LynetteTrawick.com. And if you order on my website, you receive an autographed copy of my book. And you can also find me on all social media platforms at Lynette Trawick. I try to make it a little simple. You can also follow my the Instagram page for my nonprofit, IAMU.inc. So it's IAM, the letter U, .INC. That's where you'll find the information for my nonprofit. So, again, we're doing some restructuring and rebranding. So be patient with us, but you'll soon be able to see all of the exciting things we have coming up.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Make sure, Thyroid Nation, that you have all that information. We will make sure we put it up as well. Again, great time with you tonight. I always say I don't interview people. We are having courageous conversations. We sitting in the living room and we just chopping it up and having some girl talk and just talking about everyday life events that we need to help our other sisters with.
I love
right?
it.
So awesome. We definitely want to make sure that we want to have you back later. It's always, this is an ongoing topic, and it is a topic that doesn't get enough talk about it. So we certainly will love to have you come back and join the family at a later date.
I would love that.
Really? Awesome. So, my final thoughts, of course, I always tell you guys, my Thriver Nation, I love you guys so much. I always tell you, people say be kind to one another, but I want to go a step further and say be kind to yourself. And don't ever forget that you are no longer a victim. You are more than a survivor. You are a thriver. And so one of the things, too, that I want to make sure that we do is get some phone numbers for helplines. I know in the Philadelphia area, and that's the only one I have. I will make sure that you guys have something else. But the HIV/AIDS hotline in Pennsylvania is 800-662-6080. And, of course, the domestic violence hotline is 1-800-799-7233, right? So, Lynette, I don't know if you had any other numbers, but those were some that I looked up to make sure that if anybody has a situation that they need to call, they can get some help and some assistance.
Well, you can actually, to see them by state, you can go on ryanwhite.hrsa.gov, and you can find all of the different hotlines separated by state.
Look at that! I told y'all she was a wealth of knowledge. Didn't I say that?
I've been called the resource lady many times. So if I don't know it, I'm going to find the answer.
That's how you do it. That's what's going on here. We had some amazing guests here and Speak Your Piece with Lady Michelle, and that's what it's really all about. Speaking your piece, speaking up for yourself, speaking your mind, really going that extra mile to say, oh, and this is the one last part because this made me think of it. There was something that you said on your Facebook page. We're going to say this really quickly. And you said that no is a complete sentence. And I always tell people that you have to be okay with your no. You got to say it. It's healthy boundaries. And when you said it and you did a whole little skit like, no,
yes.
I was on the floor. I loved it. And so that goes back to speaking up for yourself, speaking your mind. And you don't have to do things in a nasty way. You don't have to do things in an ignorant way, but you can stand flat foot and say, no, I cannot do that right now. I can't do that today. I can't do that this week.
I can't do it ever.
It's not going to work for me. And it's okay.
Yes.
It's okay. And people won't be okay with your no, but you have to be okay with your no. And so that made me think about that when you said that on your Facebook page. I told you I've been following you for quite some time now, and I love that you are living out loud and you are having an amazing time. You are eating healthy. You and your husband, you guys are working out. You're doing a lot of great things. So, Thriver Nation,
thank you so
y'all
much.
make sure y'all going over to her social media pages, follow her, get some good information. And if there's someone that's on this line listening and you are going through HIV, you've been newly diagnosed or you've diagnosed a while ago, listen, hook up with my girl Lynette, get some information, find out some things. Maybe you might even want to work with her in her organization, or if she has some events coming up, some workshops, seminars, symposiums, go to these events. Get more information. Find out what you need to know so that you can live a healthy and whole life. Okay? Now, I said it.
Perfect.
Standing
Thank
on it.
you.
You are so very welcome. We're going to get ready to get out of here. You guys know how to get in touch with me, of course, on my social media pages. I want to thank everyone for another amazing show. Of course, thank our special guest. She is, she's part of the family now. She's one of us, and so we love her so much. And we thank you, and we wish you all of the success. I'm telling you, any way that we can help you here. Speak Your Piece with Lady Michelle, we definitely will. Even my organization, Heal and Rebuild Unbreakable Spirit, we will make sure that we help you if you need us in any way. Okay, so you let me know. We are there.
Yes. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So before we get out of here, I want to remind everybody, all of my thrivers, when you love yourself, you are healed. And when you are healed, you are loved. I thank you guys for everything, for always being here. Y'all know y'all going to have to tune in next Sunday because, what do we do here? We always have an outstanding guest every single week, so you don't want to miss it. Thank you. And we're going to go ahead and let our theme song just take us on out of here because that's what it does. This is an amazing song, right? I love you guys so much, and I will see everyone next Sunday. Thank you, Lynette. Have a wonderful week.
Thank you. You too.
Awesome. And I think our song is going to take us on out of here. Our song will be coming up in just a second, everybody. And we're going to get on up out of here. We love you all.
Pick your head up, get up. It's only right. Take back your life. Pick your head up, get up. Take back your life. And come and talk to me. Speak your peace. Speak your peace.